This is a podcast by the Straits Times.
Au revoir, Paris. It has been an unforgettable 2024 Olympics in the French city, and over the last few weeks, we've witnessed incredible moments of perseverance, skill, and emotions as athletes from around the globe gathered to compete at the pinnacle of sport. And that, of course, includes Team Singapore, which once again showcased its grit, determination, and world-class talent on the global stage. And those exploits were, of course, headlined by kitefoiler Max Maeder's historic bronze medal. Hi, I'm Deepanraj Ganesan, ST Sports reporter and your host of the Hard Tackle podcast. On this episode, you will hear from Max Maeder himself as he spoke to journalists from ST a day after his bronze medal win. But first, I'm joined by my colleagues Kimberly Kwek and Rohit Brijnath, who have been in Paris covering the Games to get their assessment of the Paris Olympics and Team Singapore's performances. Hello Kim and hello Rohit. First and foremost, a bronze medal for Singapore. Kim, firstly, could you describe the overall mood at Marseille Marina on August 9th at the end of the race? Was there like a sense of deflation given Max had been favourite, or was it a sense of jubilation?
I think for the Singapore supporters, there was a sense of, pride and happiness, because if you take into context, this is just the sixth medal that Singapore has ever won at the Olympics, and this is the first in sailing. But so I think the disappointment wasn't so much from the spectators and from the fans there. It was more from Max himself, because he has very high expectations of himself.
I was really happy to see so many red shirts by the Blue Sea, because I think this is what I would like to see from Singaporeans, They were, of course, Max's family, they were officials, but there were people, I think, who didn't know him, but who had come to support him, Singaporeans, from far and wide. And I think that's, it made it a sense of occasion that and of course it was National Day. And you're right. I think that two things that you said I agree with is, one is that, look, any medal we would be happy with. Just to win a medal, to be on the table, to see one of our people, a boy, do well was fantastic. But I think also the fact that, yes, he was disappointed, but I think people just enveloped him in such love and admiration and affection that I think it even moved him.
Yeah.
So in a sense that he didn't feel that he was in it alone, though athletes are always in it alone, but that there was something nice at the end of the day. So I thought there were very moving scenes in the end, and it was a great, great moment.
Yeah. There's that great photo of him and his mom just locked in an embrace.
Like a never-ending hug,
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's what you need. I think it was a great diver. I quoted the other day Greg Louganis, who I think was really nervous at his last dive at, I think, the 84 Olympics, and he says, doesn't matter whatever happens, my mother still loves me. And I think these are things that really matter a lot, and we saw it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Kim, you have also been following Max's journey for a while now, and how has it been, How do you feel now that the debut Olympics campaign has ended with a bronze medal?
Yeah, so I think it's been a privilege to follow Max's journey. What he has achieved is not what many have, and it's been a joy to follow it, to understand him better, to see what makes him the competitor that he is. And above all, I think he always talks about wanting to use his sport to positively impact people, and I think you can see people wanting to learn more about the sport, people getting interested in it, and it's not just for those who are involved in kitefoiling or sailing. I think this can have a wider impact on athletes in general, and just a wider community.
Yeah, I think it's really nice, for people to see what a 17-year-old can do, right? It opens so many mental doors that, what is possible, at a big games or whatever. But you're right. It has been an amazing journey, and you have done some really fantastic work with our video team and
the interactive
team. The interactive team, you did two fantastic projects, which I think, you were learning while you were doing stuff that was, teaching Singaporeans about what is kitefoiling and introducing them to him. And it's always fascinating when you start a journey with a young athlete, or any athlete, is that you're getting to know them, you're finding out all the different aspects of him, the fact that he's so polite, he's so incredibly mature, he's of course incredibly, under that layer of politeness is an incredibly competitive beast, and he's so young that also startles us and still startles us, even though he's going to be 18, I think, in a month. And so it's really nice to get to know him. And then, I mentioned to him the other day that it was such a privilege for you and me to watch him perform, actually see him live on the sea do his stuff, which was, yes, not as well as he hoped to do, but for us it was magnificent.
Yeah. And I mean, just on how his first Olympics campaign ended with a bronze, any medal at this stage is no small feat, right? And Rohit, I think you've done some pieces talking about how the Olympics is different from any other event. Like Max has won the World Championships twice, but coming to the Olympics, it's something completely different.
Yeah, I mean, it's a absolutely different beast, I mean, I could just rattle off the list of world champions who have not won Olympic golds here, people who have come from, lovely, there was that launch from Dominica, the 100-meter runner from St. Lucia. So the whole world is very good at sport, and is, the opportunity is just widening and widening for people. So that means the competitiveness, the depth of competitiveness is massive. We saw that even in the kitefoiling, where actually Max and Wodisek were the favorites, and the other guy, the Austrian, comes from nowhere and does brilliantly on the day and wins it. So I think the medal was interesting because, yes, bronze is wonderful. I mean, it is just wonderful because I think I wrote a line that, it's the first step of the podium. So if you're looking at his ladder, he's got on to the first step of the podium. That's what matters. And he's so young, right? So he has many Olympics ahead of him. And at the same time, he was upset, which is also a good thing to see because it told you that he was unsatisfied. And that's what you really want to see with athletes. So yes, they're grateful for all the love and support and whatnot, but, they want to do more. Their sights are set on excellence.
Okay, and surely this is a start of many Olympics for him and possibly more medals. Is that the sense that you get?
Yeah, I mean, so many things. One is, I think, I'm glad he's young because it's a nice journey now. People are starting, the reaction that he got from Singaporeans, I think, has been one of the best. I mean, it's making me actually a bit emotional talking about it because he was showing us his phone, right, yesterday, the amount of messages he got. I think that's really important because I think people are learning about him, forming a relationship with him, they have an affection for him, and I think they will start following him. And I think that's a great thing, when a country gets behind an athlete, they have fun watching him and learning about his sport, and he has fun because he knows there's so many people behind him. I think what is going to happen is that kitefoiling is going to become more and more competitive. So it's going to become harder and harder and harder to win medals, which is good. That's the way it should be in a sport. But, he's a very, yourself, he's very analytical. And I think he's a person who just wants to become better. I think he wants to win, but he also wants to become better and, just find little ways in which he can, improve himself. And so I think we're in for a fun journey.
Yeah. I think there's no doubt that he's going to continue. He's going to try and continue being the, one of the top kitefoilers as well. The sport is going to feature at LA 2028. So there's another cycle and another opportunity to see him racing at the Olympics. I mean, Rohit, just on what you mentioned about the support that he's gotten, he also talked about how, that has motivated him and, given him encouragement to keep going and, and just try to repeat what he's been doing.
Yeah, and I think we need athletes to set standards for us. I thought Joseph set a very good standard. I thought Shanti at the Asian Games set a good standard. I think he set a standard here. We need to aspire to higher things. We need to be tough. We keep needing proof that it is possible, and these athletes offer us that proof that it is possible.
Okay, and lastly, if you could sum up this Team Singapore campaign, what would you say? Has it been good?
So, I mean, the first thing I think, so Kim, let's have a nice chat about this. The first thing is that every athlete who's here has earned their place here. I mean, and that's a really important thing, that you earned your way here. And I deeply, deeply respect that because just to be part of this congregation of 10,500 athletes to be good enough to qualify, because competition in events like, we have rowers, we have canoeists, we have swimmers, and these are fields with deep, or sailing like Ryan. These are sports with deep fields, so to qualify your way here is good. I think, there's always going to be ups and downs. Some people do better. I mean, the swimmer, Kanchingwi, right?
Yeah.
She got 2 personal bests, which I thought was terrific. The shooter did well. I think she came 12th.
Yes.
So that was good. And I think generally, as I think I wrote in a piece, is the Olympics is becoming tougher. I mean, the standard is shattering. I wrote a little bit about the shot putter, Ryan Krauser, who won his 3rd Olympic gold and then posted a video of himself practicing in his lawn in America. And that's how scary it is. So I think we have to just find ways to become tougher and tougher. So what did you think? What was your view of the Singapore performance?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no questioning the effort. Definitely, they put in the hours and earn their spots, like you said. But maybe more has to be done to kind of prepare Singaporean athletes to compete on this stage. I think Phelps mentioned, he was not very happy with how the US performed, but it was also a sign that other countries were catching up. So everybody is sort of trying to improve, and everybody is, raising the bar. So I think we have to also adapt and find ways to make sure that our athletes can compete on this stage as well.
Yeah, that's perfectly put. I mean, I think that, you just have to keep finding different ways. And so, yeah, I mean, I hope they debrief the athletes well. And, because our athletes are the person in the arena. We want to know what they felt, where were they well prepared, where did they feel that, there was a problem, mentally, was everything fine? In the sense that, the Olympics is so loud. People don't realize when they say loud, what I mean is there's so many things happening. Everybody's talking about it. You're in this huge village. Everybody's talking about excellence. You're banging into gold medal winners. Do you belong? Can you silence all this noise and focus on your result, on your event, and find the best during this time? It's very difficult.
I agree.
And overall, what's been your experience in Paris?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit biased because I love this city. I've been here before, and I like its style. It's interesting that at the stadiums themselves, there are fantastic crowds. They've probably all been full. I found the crowds pretty fair. Obviously cheering for the French, but otherwise pretty fair, recognizing excellence when they see it. But in the city, you don't see too much branding. And I was speaking to a friend of mine who actually lives in Paris, and you can walk around Paris and not necessarily feel an Olympics is on, which is not bad or good. It's just an interesting thing about it. Beautiful, beautiful stadiums, because they've had them in, maybe you want to talk about some of the stadiums they've had the sport in.
Yeah, I think fencing definitely stands out at the Grand Palais. So I was at beach volleyball, so there was the Eiffel Tower as the backdrop, and it was just stunning. So yeah, I mean, it's quite unique in the sense that a lot of the venues that were used are actually existing landmarks with a very deep, very long history.
Yeah, I mean, even the equestrian was held in where one of the kings used to live in Versailles. And I think it's so much more beautiful than building these massive multi-billion-dollar stadiums and then, which are put to no use later,
Yeah.
So I thought it's actually one of the more beautiful Olympics that I've been to. Mm-hmm. Any downsides?
I think before the Olympics, there were a lot of, concerns about how it would go, Firstly, the political situation here, and then, I guess Parisians also mentioned that they weren't too happy. There were concerns about, I guess maybe one thing that might not have went that smoothly is the open water swimming, in the River Seine. I think there were quite a few hiccups there. But yeah, I mean, given all the doubts about the Olympics before the games, I think it has delivered a relatively good
and I think
experience.
Eventually in the end, from Olympics, what you really remember is what a great performances, did people elevate sport, and so many people did. They were just, I mean, we talk a lot about Simone Biles and she deserves it, but there were so many athletes in so many events, who were doing just startling things, and such a privilege for us to watch.
Yeah. And not to forget all the displays of sportsmanship as
well. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's nice, right? Yeah. When you're so fiercely fighting for something, you still recognize you're part of a tribe, and I think my favorite moment was just a small moment. I think we were both there that morning when the 100-meter heats were going on, and one of the runners fell down in agony. I think she must have either torn a hamstring, but she was really screaming. And then two of the other runners, after they finished, I don't think they even necessarily were friends or anything like that, and ran back to see how she was. And I like that sense of fraternity that exists within an Olympics.
And that was my conversation with ST colleagues Rohit and Kimberly. They also had the pleasure of speaking to Max a day after his bronze medal win, where they asked him about how he felt putting Singapore on the map. Here is that interview.
So many wonderful things must have happened yesterday. So many people, so many messages or whatever. So the difficult thing is, some small thing somebody might have said to you on social media or somebody said to you, which was very moving and lovely to you, out of all the wonderful congratulations that you got?
Well, the thing that does stand out to me is that I have not been able to spot a single, even mildly negative message, even remotely close to something that would have a notion of being negative. It was all beaming with happiness and joy and pride and celebration and you name it.
Should I even ask you how many messages you had on your phone?
If I may do a demonstration, frankly, I was very surprised. I thought, I would try and take the time to answer some of the, answer at the time I was thinking all of the nice messages that I would get. And, I ended up only doing that for the people who had my number.
Yeah. Okay.
So I basically realized that wasn't possible. And so I think I'm planning to post a story to thank everyone for their,
sure.
their help. I mean, this is barely a quarter.
Yeah.
I've tried to get to the end and I managed to do it before, but this is a quarter of the message, right? So it's...
That's beautiful.
It is. It really is.
Okay. A little bit more, these games, like any Olympic Games, is just full of so much emotion.
Of course.
A lot of crying, right? A lot of crying. And you were crying on the boat, right?
Absolutely, yes.
So there's so many things going through an athlete which only really an athlete understands, right? But try to explain to us really, why were you crying? What was going through you at that moment? If you've been able to process it so far.
Well, okay. I think, unfortunately, I cannot overcome my natural desire to do well. And I guess the fact that A, it didn't go well, and B, the way it didn't go well, against the people that it didn't go well against, is all of the combination of that, along with the fact of me having to wait for a while until I get to try again and quote unquote, prove myself again, is probably what gutted me at the time. Perhaps there was also a sense of letting down the people that support me is too strong, I think. But in the sense of not being able to see how happy they would have been in that manner, right? And that was more at the back than what happened at the actual time and my natural competitiveness and all of that. So put that to a mix where you don't get to try again very often, and then you get a very potent effect.
So that's interesting because the natural competitiveness, I know, right?
Yes,
We've spoken about it before, which is fantastic. So I can understand that reaction. You mentioned that the way you competed perhaps was not up to, you mentioned something about the way, right? The people who you competed against and the way. Yeah.
To clarify, the things that didn't go too well were because of decisions made that were not according to things that we, planned out. Because usually before a competition, you have a plan, right? And you try and stick to it. I didn't really stick to it, right? In terms of, because of, whatever reason that may be, we still have to look at it. But there's certain decisions I make based on what happens, and I didn't make it that way, right? So why I was so not disturbed during the first finals day was, even though it didn't go well, I stuck to the plan, and it helped me, and it showed that we had to change the plan a little bit, but otherwise I stuck to it. And in the second day I didn't, and perhaps that added a little bit insult to injury, if you will. It's a part of the sport. Like, really, I want to emphasize here that I'm not so disturbed at all. It's a one-time reaction after the racing. You sulk a bit, and it is far compensated by the fact of how much I've seen the people be overjoyed with how it went, and how I've seen the people truly and sincerely moved by what happened. And in the end, that's what I've been saying is part of the main goal of my sport, is to, be able to put a smile on people's faces with my own effort through sport. And to see it come true is lights a fire in me to try and continue and repeat it again.
Can I just say that you put a massive smile on all our faces? Okay, really.
Do you think you would have been so emotional if it weren't the Olympics? If this were just one of the other competitions?
Yeah. I think at the level it's going right now, I wouldn't have been much less upset if it was a big event, which is the Olympics. I wouldn't have been much less, emotional. Perhaps I wouldn't have teared up to the extent that I did, but still I probably would have been quite upset but reasonably surprised with, how the support and the people back at home would react, nonetheless, because, I haven't won everything all the time, and yet I'm able to see the people around me, the people that follow me, or people that just seen me and still act proud and or seem proud and be supportive, despite, it not going the best for me, myself. And I would think it's a very similar situation in any event outside. So, to put it briefly, I'm surprised by how little my result affects the reaction of those around me, but how much I can influence how happy they are through the way I bring, the way I handle myself and the way I bring the experience to them in terms of, doing it fairly, with integrity, with a smile on my face, with a genuine smile on my face, and showing that puts me in a way more relaxed manner to compete, to say that I can compete to the ability that I have trained for, and I don't have to worry about how it goes, because no matter what, I know that I have a much higher chance of fulfilling my goal of putting a smile on people's face than just simply looking at the results and doing well.
I'm sorry to go back to this. You mentioned you had a plan. Could you share what this plan was and in what way you did not follow it?
Okay, well, plan is a strong word. I would say the best analogy is principles to stick to, right? In case A happens, you do B, right? If this, then that. And there's lists of X things like this where you have, if A, then B, right? And some cases yesterday where there was situation A and I did not pull, decision B. I did not make it. I made a different one. And that added the extra sting, if you will.
Was it just instinct? Was it just your instinct, okay, I'm going to do this instead of this?
Perhaps there's a mix of, intuition, instinct, or what you feel at that moment, right? There's so many variables. I haven't properly taken a look at it. It's normal in sport where, everything goes on so much and you can't always be perfectly robotic, right? As unfortunate as that may be for me. But I haven't always stick to the plan. And more often than not, that's when I was, let's say, bothered a little bit by that, right? Or it didn't go as well as expected because of it. But it's not a novel thing, and it's part of the sport, yeah.
So one of the things people forget, you're so good at what you do, you've been world champion twice, people forget you're only 17 years old, right? And this is your first Olympics, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things even experienced athletes have been saying at these games, the Titmus, the swimmer and whatnot, is that this is a very difficult place to win the Olympics because of all the noise. At a world championship, you won't probably have the amount of noise around the games like you have at an Olympics. So I want to know, what was that like for you? Were you surprised by some things at the Olympics? I'm not talking about the result at all. I'm just saying this coming to Olympics, the whole environment, was that different, for you from a world championships and whatnot, much bigger, louder, pressurized games?
I think it was beautiful to see. They kept asking me, how do you feel about the Olympics? How do you feel about the Olympics? And one word kept popping into my mind, and that was connection. And I mentioned that multiple times before, where you have the ability to share your sport, your story, your journey, your performance, your aspiration, whatever it may be, through this stage. And that single word of, if you had to sum up the Olympics in one word, I was asked this question. And I said, personally, I would say connection through this. And I think it came in a package where perhaps, yes, it affects you a little bit in the entire environment. But I would see it as way more than a net positive because of the sheer joy you feel from being able to have this connection and this sharing of experience, right? And if you go through it all alone, you may win all the events, but for what? For who? And it makes it worthwhile to go through a sporting endeavor like this, and to see this fulfillment of your efforts uplifting other people's day, their journey, their day from watching, or whatever it may be, and your supporters, and having them be overjoyed through them placing their, whatever it may be, resources, faith, belief, or support in you, and them having a cool story to follow or something to celebrate from that, right?
What did you learn about yourself from this experience?
What did I learn about myself? Try as I might, I can't be a robot. It's crushing, really.
I know you once gave me a quote on that you try to be a robot. Yeah.
Jokes aside, I think the best thing that I've learned through this is how valuable it is to have this mentality of gratitude and sharing and positive perspective in the sense of what happens out on the water enriches what you may do on outside of that, right? You can have this type of effort being put in and this system around everything that you do, right? And it's not used to deliver results. It's used to, transmit a message or have something to celebrate about or, make other people proud or all of this, right? And I think that's what I have made a realization of during these games is at least for this one time, I felt like I have made the biggest positive impact that I've had ever from what I feel. And like I said on that day, you saw me coming back a little bit teary, but I didn't force myself to smile. I smiled because of me being able to achieve one of the main goals, which I've shared with you.
So what's today been like? What was waking up today? Did you look at your medal at all today? What's it been like? Waking up as a Olympic bronze medalist. What's it like?
Well, I don't know. I haven't thought about the result as much as I've thought about how happy I am for this level of simply joy around it, right? And I think, I don't know. I haven't thought much about it. Forgive me. I spent like half an hour trying to pack all the rest of my stuff to get on the train, and then give my best to get like 2 hours more of sleep after the entire celebration of yesterday, right? So there was the party ended, and then we went out for dinner. We came back, had to pack, and I had around 2-3 hours of sleep, and I tried to sleep on the train. So I didn't really reflect, but I think I have this split. It is surrounded by what I've been saying, and also the fact that, of course, you aren't going to look back at it and think, what a outstanding performance I had on the water, right? Because I did make a mistake, right? And I did have potential for more, right? But that's not the point. The point is that you may have a little bit of what if, how, but it's surrounded by something that completely suppresses that, which is, what I've been telling you with this supportive, positive feedback loop, right? I bring a positive experience. I get great support. I feel more relaxed with the experience. They get more great experiences, right?
Do you feel better after looking at the messages that people have sent you?
I was surprised by how much it was received positively. But I don't think I feel better because of that. I think it's separate, right? My performance out on the water and how I feel about that and how I feel about how it's gone in general are two separate things, right? You have the very cold, pragmatic, objective look of what happened on the water, what did I do, my decisions I made. And then you have the, how did it go? How did it go? Right? Well, what's the outcome in the end? And those are two very different things. And one of them is way more important than the other.
Max, thank you.
With pleasure.
Yeah, I appreciate your patience with us. Yeah.
No, I mean, it's my pleasure.
And that's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed this as much as we did putting it together. And I think Max's medal is not just history making, but what I gained from hearing him speak is perhaps confidence that this is just the beginning of many, many more medals to come.
Send your feedback to podcast@sph.com.sg. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or within our Straits Times app. Thanks for listening.